Welcome back to All Day Live. Oh, the sun I just saw it out of the corner of my eye, Ryan. The sun just kind of peeked. Oh, now it's going away again. It just popped out. That's a good sign. I'm Amy Hawker. Coming up on 1:30, we're glad that you're with us on this Monday afternoon. We wanted to bring in our friend, our coworker, Paul Blume, to talk a little bit about a piece that he's been working on, and really a story that he's been working on for quite some time. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. And you may remember the stories you introduced me. We sort of broke on your show. Well, it's been about a month ago. We were on with you.
So tell us, I guess, first of all, the gentleman that we're talking about here, his name is Mark Lanterman. So let's start with who is Mark Lanterman?
And then that was the title of our story yesterday. Who is Mark Lanterman? Perhaps somewhat the name on the surface, a little inside baseball for those of us in the local media, but a massive, following. He is a guy, cybersecurity, data forensics, a frequent guest on our air over the years as an expert in everything, from criminal sleuthing, digital, getting into computers, getting evidence in criminal cases. CBS News used him at one point to take a look at Hunter Biden's laptop, or what was alleged to be data from Hunter Biden's laptop. He's hired by local law enforcement agencies to do some of their digital forensics and investigation. A critical witness in a case we covered almost a decade ago, Stephen Allwine, killed his wife out of Washington County, Cottage Grove. A deep net investigation where Lanterman's the key witness in that case, obtaining the Bitcoin track to show a murder for hire plot involving a murder scheme, husband wife. So he's omnipresent in that sphere. Again, a frequent guest on Fox 9. But about a month ago, we got a bulletin from the Hennepin County Attorney's Office that they were no longer going to use Mark Lanterman as an expert, and basically prosecutors said at that time that they could not fully verify Lanterman's educational and work history. So his CV, his resume, was under question. And why that's important is if you are an expert witness in a case and you're relied upon to deliver the truth, the facts, what you uncover, and perhaps something in your history doesn't add up, how much can you be trusted? What of that person's work can you then put in front of a jury? And really, Amy, what it came down to over these last several weeks as we've looked closer and closer is a big focus on where and if he has a college and master's degree in computer science. He proclaims to have degrees from a now defunct college, Uppsala College in New Jersey. The school no longer exists. There are institutions that do hold their records, but attorneys and other investigators have not been able to turn up any transcripts of his. And what made our story so powerful last night is we have obtained a deposition of Mark Lanterman under oath as an expert witness. He, in a federal case out of North Florida, he had to be deposed about his findings in this case, and he was challenged about his record. And under oath, he had to answer those questions. And my understanding, Amy, is you got to play that for your viewers earlier in in your show, and you see him answer questions, and some of the, he doesn't have his diplomas anymore. He can't name anybody he went to college with. He doesn't know where his diplomas went.
What's the timeline? Sorry, Paul. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, no. What's the timeline on that? Because the deposition piece of it, but then I guess I'm curious what prompted Hennepin County to send out that bulletin to say, was there something that happened, as far as the deposition goes? Did that come before that or after that?
The deposition, the adversarial deposition happened in February. Okay. What Hennepin County is saying is another lawyer. We now know who the source of the information is. He's a lawyer out of Wisconsin, an investigator, somewhat of a, you might say a small competitor. Mark Lanterman has his own businesses. He's built computer forensic services into a behemoth in the industry. I mean, again, a national expert, often sought all across the country. But there is a guy who just, doesn't believe in Mark Lanterman, let's put it that way. And he has been digging into Lanterman for years. We don't get into the he said, she said kind of component to this, but he presented information, we understand, to the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. They had concerns. They opened up their own investigation. They dug into the allegations about his resume, and clearly word started to spread, and he was faced with some of these exact same questions in that deposition about a month prior to it becoming public.
Okay. And I guess I'm curious how this might be resolved, if it can be resolved, because you talked about Uppsala College and the fact that they went under. There's no records there. But, and it's not uncommon for somebody not to have their diploma maybe with them, or so I guess I'm curious, what from here, is there an investigation to try to get to the bottom of this? Because you would think you'd be able to prove at some point whether or not he went to college there, his credentials check out.
So a couple things there. The other thing the opposing counsel did, because he found evidence against their client, so they want his expert testimony kind of wiped off the record. And what they did some pretty serious due diligence beyond just asking for his transcripts from these subsequent institutions. They actually went to New Jersey, obtained yearbooks, college graduation programs from the now defunct college from the years in which Lanterman said he attended the school. And in all those yearbooks and in all those yearbooks and graduation pamphlets, Mark Lanterman's name does not show up there. As for how it could be resolved, what has subsequently happened is the FBI is now investigating Mark Lanterman's history, credentials, if you will, perhaps, allegations of perjury in federal court. So perhaps the FBI might have a little bit more abilities than, say, the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, private counsel in these lawsuits where Lanterman is hired as a witness. So they're going to try to get to the bottom of it. And I just want to get in, I know you watched the story earlier, is after his adversarial deposition, where he's kind of challenged, like, give me a name of someone you went to school with. Where are your diplomas? Oh, your grandparents had them last. So does that mean they were thrown away when your grandparents passed away? He told the opposing counsel in that deposition that he used to work for a very small suburban police department outside of Philadelphia. There weren't many questions about that, but in the moment, obviously he would have recognized that he had answered that question. And within days of that deposition, he's checking in with the folks in that suburban Pennsylvania police department and asking about personnel file retention. And he learns that his file was not destroyed, as sometimes cities, get rid of files every 5-10 years. But in that department, they've kept previous employees' records. So we don't know the exact details of what happens next, but he admits he goes to suburban Philadelphia within days of that deposition. He gets his file, his employment file, and he leaves with it and returns to Minnesota. Now, he claims he had permission to take it. Opposing counsel says he does not. Opposing counsel said he told quite a story about suffering from a grave heart condition, and he wanted his records to take home to show to his family, to show them what his records looked like as a young man, as an early police officer early in his career. Again, this is going back 30 some odd years. But I've checked in with the police chief down there, out there. He still hasn't gotten those files back. He's asked repeatedly. Lanterman insists he put them in the mail when he realized there was an issue with that. But the chief and the city do not have the records anymore. And why that could be interesting is, Amy, if you think about your very first job application, your first personnel file, that likely would tell you what the root education was. Like, I have a high school degree, I have some college, I have a GED, I have a degree from Uppsala if he does. What's in that document? What's in that record? And Lanterman went and seized it. And as of, I checked in with the chief right before my story aired. They still don't have that record back. and whether the FBI can figure out where it is or if there's some facsimile somewhere. But I think that would go a long way to perhaps being indicative or giving some answers as to whether or not he has those degrees. And I would just point out, Amy, you don't need a master's and a bachelor's degree to do what he does. You can be really, really good. A lot of people do a lot of things without those college degrees, but it's more about the continued, what would amount to perjury if you continue to sort of rely and sort of, insist that you have these degrees when you do not.
Yeah.
So it obviously that story will continue.
Oh yeah, and it sounds like it's burning quite hot right now. Still, given this, where are those files? But also, I guess I wanted to ask you about some of the prior cases that he's testified in.
Yeah.
If it is found that he was not honest about this, does that stain those cases at all? I mean, you mentioned Stephen Allwine. Is there a chance that some of these cases could be, something could be thrown out in worst case scenario or mistrial, that kind of thing?
Certainly there are worries. Hennepin County has said thus far they've alerted 10 cases, attorneys in 10 local Hennepin County cases, criminal in nature, where he either testified in court or his work, his behind the scenes, evidence gathering were important parts of a criminal trial. We don't know what will happen. That's called a Brady notification. The government is obligated to disclose sort of information, disfavorable information about a witness. So there are at least 10 cases that are getting reviewed. I will tell you the Stephen Allwine murder, again, I mean, it's going back nearly 10 years, but he has an effort underway in federal district court to try to get a new hearing in that case. And guess what he did last month as the story was breaking? He sent a letter or filed a motion. He's representing himself in that proceeding, but arguing now that the state's main witness is, his words, a fraud at this point, and he believes that he's entitled to at least a new hearing on it, an opportunity for a court to probe the impact of Lanterman's investigation. Again, in that case, as we understand it, I mean, the FBI, Washington County hired several experts there, but at least my understanding is it was Lanterman who found that Bitcoin code that connected to the potential murder for hire plot that would subsequently, impact or would likely impact a jury's final decision, and that was a first-degree murder conviction. That's Mr. Allwine is behind bars for life at this point, and whether or not fudging of a resume, making up a college degree or two, does that matter on the ultimate outcome? Certainly, prosecutors would argue, well, even if you throw away the college degrees,
sure,
we can still, stand behind his work, getting into a computer, his high-tech sleuthing. But, you're talking about people's lives, and he does a lot of work where, he's representing companies, so big money is at stake, and someone might make the argument, well, if he's going to lie about his college degrees, what about this email timestamp? Maybe we fudge that by 10 minutes. No one will know. No one else can get into this computer. You do have to ask that. And I think that's what's happening in a number of cases, certainly 10 that we know of already in Hennepin County. Lanterman claimed on his bio that has now been stripped from his company website that he worked on, he testified in some 2,000 cases, a massive number. But we just don't know how big a concern this is just at this point. I mean, it's still reverberating off of Hennepin County, saying we're no longer going to use him, and we're going to alert any cases where he played a role. And one more point to the Hennepin County issue, and we reported it last night, is over the years, going back at least 5 or 6, he had contracts with the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, basically being their digital crime lab, their digital investigators. And the county, the Sheriff's Office did tell me before my story aired, they will no longer using Lanterman, even though they have a contract that still is set to go through a little later this year. They said they're no longer going to use him, I think, based off of what the Hennepin County Attorney's Office has previously said.
Okay. Incredible. Yeah, and like I said, still white hot right now as the FBI continues this investigation. I know you guys will stay on top of it. Just as an aside, I think it's great. You've kind of taken on this new-ish role with Fox 9. You know, you were on the street every day, sort of covering the day-to-day stuff, and now it's been really cool to be able to see you take on, you know, stories that are in the headlines, but kind of do these deeper dives into it. So it's been great. I hope.
No, it's great. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, it's to spend more time, dig a little deeper. I mean, you kind of know me, and I think some of our viewers locally certainly would know me as, you know, the guy who's on TV every night, you know, in that A block, and, you know, get what you can that day, get it out on the air, you know, inform the public. But this new role is definitely giving me more opportunities, you know, to dig deeper, to obtain that, to uncover that, you know, Mark Lanterman deposition under oath, the video to that, to have time to really tell a full story and dig deeper into the situation. I think it's great for our viewers, and certainly great on my end. So thank you.
Oh yeah, no, you're the guy. You're the guy to do it for sure. There was for so many years there was so much left on the cutting room floor that we were like, if only we had more than 90 seconds to tell this. So it's been great. Great. All right, Paul Blume, Fox 9 is with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time and all the digging, and we'll stay on top of it.